Alright, hey guys, so now we're going to start working on a little project that's a little interdisciplinary. That means we're going to be doing something sort of with your social studies class. This is for 5th grade, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a GIF of a map with some battles. Now what those battles are going to be from, I believe I was told you guys are learning about the War of 1812. That's a fascinating war. Now, if you don't know, the War of 1812 was between the British and the Americans. And this is after America became a country, like right after it. In fact, you can look at the flag here. There's not even 50 stars yet, so it's still a really young country. And 1812, that is, you can tell that's after 1776 when we declared our independence from England. So we'd already fought a war to become free from England a couple decades earlier, and then now something else happened in the world, and I'll get into more detail on that. And in 1812, the United States had to go back to war against England. So a little history on that. Back in that time, here's a map of the world. You can see over here is the United States, and the blue part is what is America at the time. The real states are right over here, this area, and you can see the major cities like Boston, New York, Baltimore, Washington, and way down here south, one of the newer cities was New Orleans. We'd actually just bought that territory. It's called the Louisiana Purchase, and that's this whole blue area over here. We bought that from England. I mean, not England, we bought that from France. Now, even though we fought a war against England, which is this country over here, also called the United Kingdom, or the British, they still own some territory over here in North America, right north of us. So this would be the United States, which is still the United States today. And back in those times, this was called British North America, also known as Canada. And right here, this area is kind of a disputed area at the time between Americans, the British Canadians, and Native Americans. So the end result of this war ends up being that America becomes a little bit bigger. Canada decides that they are definitely more Canadian than British, eventually becoming free themselves, but not quite yet. And what started all of this, the war actually began because England, over here, the British, the United Kingdom, they had an enemy over here in France called Napoleon. Now, Mr. Napoleon was, he became an emperor, and he started taking over all of Europe. So even though France is only about as big as I'm showing you right here, France started taking over all these other countries, making alliances, and expanding really, really fast. So England was worried, and they were a little concerned about the fact that the Americans were still doing trade with the French, this whole Napoleon Empire thing going on over here. So the British, and while they were trying to fight this war against Napoleon over here, they decided to block trade between the United States and France, Napoleon and their empire and all these countries. And so that made it really hard on the Americans over here. And then also on top of that, the British Navy was taking people from, they were capturing American ships and making the Americans fight for the British against the French, against their will. So there were some things happening that caused Americans to decide that they wanted to go to war against England. And we're going to take a little look at that by looking at a few of the different battles and drawing them on a map. So that's just some history on this. This will be probably a couple video lesson. So brace yourselves. Now, let's get into the actual assignment. What we're going to do in your classwork, this is just for 5th grade, not 4th grade. Alright, so there's going to be a link to click on. It's going to say USA in 1812 map, Web 2020. Now that is the link you're going to want to click on. And from this, you're going to click on this link, and then you're going to copy the URL up here. So triple click till it's all blue. And then you can click Control Copy, or you can, however you are good at copying. I know some of our computers are a little bit different. But you want to copy the address right there. And then we'll go to Pixlr. So we'll put in Pixlr pixlr.com editor, that one. We'll click OK. So we're going to Pixlr editor E, the fancy one. We'll click on this. And then, yeah, I was making another version of it over there, but I think I like this map better. So we're going to load URL. So did you see what I did there? I'll go back. Look, instead of creating new or open image, we're going to load URL. That's this gray one right down here. Click a key. Click here. And click here. Click a key. And then you're going to paste. So you're going to either right click and paste by doing that, or you're going to Control V to paste it in. And you click load. Okay. So that's going to be our background for this whole thing. And what we're going to do with this, I'll show you a little video so you can see an example. This is kind of cool. This was one I found on YouTube, and it shows the major battles that happened.
Battles of the War. Atlantic Ocean, 1813. British Navy blockades American coast. Lake Erie, 1813. Commodore Perry's fleet defeats a British fleet. Thames River, 1813. Harrison defeats British in Canada, killing Tecumseh. Washington, D.C., 1814. British burn the Capitol. Baltimore, 1814. British fail to capture nearby Baltimore.
Alright, so far you can kind of see these little battles popping up, and some of them are battles that the British won in red. Some of them are American victories that are in blue. You can see the legend over here. And these little ships right there, those are blockades. What that is those are boats, big ships from the British, that blocked the waters outside of the United States that would have been right over here, keeping them from being able to sail to do trade with the rest of Europe. So the United States, they didn't like that. So we're gonna go back into we can watch the rest of the video real quick.
Lake Champlain, 1814.
So you can see
American
who wins.
ships defeat British, who retreat to Canada. New Orleans, 1815. Jackson's army defeats British in the Battle of New Orleans.
And that one's way down there in New Orleans. That last battle actually happened after the war had been won. But yeah, the British gave up on the war, and the United States basically won. And we retained our freedom, so we kept our freedom from the British. And we also gained territory over here in Michigan and Indiana and Illinois and all the way up here in Wisconsin, Minnesota too. And it kind of decided where the boundary was going to be with Canada. You see that green country right there? That was British at the time, and this ended the disputes over where Canada would be and where the United States would be. Overall, making things a lot more friendlier for the next 200 years.